The space station called Meridia floated in the darkness between 3 solar systems. It was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. Every year, leaders from 47 different worlds came here to talk, trade, and sometimes fight. They called it the Galactic Summit. Kang Do-yun stood near a tall window and watched the stars. He was a human man of 43 years. His hair was turning gray at the sides. His face had small wrinkles around the eyes. He wore a simple black suit that made him look like a businessman or a teacher. Nothing special. Nothing dangerous. That was exactly how he wanted to look. Around him, the Great Hall of Meridia buzzed with activity. Creatures of every shape and size walked past him. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no skin at all, just floating clouds of gas held together by magnetic fields. They spoke in hundreds of languages, but small devices in their ears translated everything into words they could understand. Do-yun understood them all. He also understood what they thought of him. Weak, soft, fragile. Human. In the hierarchy of the Galactic Consortium, humans ranked near the bottom. They had only discovered space travel 80 years ago. They came from a single small planet called Earth. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. Compared to the great empires of the galaxy, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. The other species tolerated humans. Some even pitied them, but none of them respected them. Do-yun took a slow breath and continued watching the crowd. He was not here to make friends. He was here because Earth's government had sent him. There was a trade agreement that needed protection. There were interests that needed guarding. And there were problems that might need solving. Do-yun was very good at solving problems. Commotion near the center of the hall caught his attention. The crowd was parting like water, making way for someone important. Do-yun turned to look. She was 7 feet tall. Her skin was covered in scales that shifted color from deep purple to bright silver as she moved. She had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. Her eyes were large and golden, with vertical pupils like a snake. When she smiled, she showed rows of pointed teeth. Princess Valari of the Throne Empire. Do-yun had read her file on the journey here. The Throne Empire controlled 12 star systems. They were a warrior race. They believed in strength above all things. Their royal family had to prove themselves in combat before they could rule. Valari had killed her first enemy at age 12. She had led armies by age 20. Now, at 35, she was considered one of the deadliest fighters in the known galaxy. She walked through the crowd like she owned everything she saw. Perhaps she believed she did. Her golden eyes swept across the hall and stopped on Do-yun. For a moment, they stared at each other. Then, Valari's lips curled into a smile of contempt. She looked away, dismissing him as unimportant. Do-yun felt nothing. He had been dismissed by far more dangerous people than her. The hours passed. Delegates made speeches. Trade agreements were discussed. Do-yun stood quietly in the human section, which was small and placed near the back of the hall. The other human delegates were nervous. They knew their place in the galaxy. They kept their heads down and tried not to attract attention. Then the trouble started. It began with a small disagreement. A merchant from the Throne Empire claimed that a human trading company had cheated him. The human representative, a young woman named Park Somi, tried to explain that there had been a misunderstanding. The merchant grew angry. He demanded compensation. Do-hyun watched carefully. Princess Valari stepped forward. The merchant was one of her subjects. This was now her matter to handle. The human company will pay double what they owe, Valari declared. This is the price for insulting the Throne Empire. Somi's face went pale. Your Highness, with respect, there was no insult. The contract was fulfilled exactly as written. Perhaps the translator made an error. Are you calling me a liar? Valari's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. The hall went silent. Everyone was watching now. Somi looked around desperately. She was young, barely 30. This was her first summit. She had no idea how to handle this situation. Do-yoon made a decision. He stepped forward. The representative is not calling anyone a liar, he said calmly. She is simply stating facts. The contract is clear. There is no debt. Valari turned her golden eyes on him. And who are you? Kang Do-yun, senior advisor to the human delegation. Advisor. She tasted the word like it was something rotten. You advise your people to call the Throne Empire liars? I advise my people to tell the truth. The truth is not an insult. A murmur ran through the crowd. No one spoke to the princess like this. No one. Valari took a step closer to Do-yun. She towered over him. Her 4 arms hung at her sides, ready to move. Her scales had shifted to a deep, angry red. You humans are brave for such weak creatures, she said softly. Or perhaps you are simply too stupid to know when you should be afraid. Do-yun looked up at her without expression. Fear is a choice, Your Highness. I choose not to make it. Something flickered in Valari's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or curiosity. Then it was gone, replaced by cold anger. You think you're strong? She asked. You think your words make you powerful? Let me show you what real power looks like. She raised her voice so the entire hall could hear. I challenge this human to the arena of honor. Single combat. Traditional rules. Let the galaxy see what happens when a human faces a true warrior. The crowd exploded with noise. Shouts of excitement, gasps of shock, laughter from those who thought the human would die quickly. Somi grabbed Do-hyun's arm. Sir, you cannot accept. She will kill you. The arena allows death. Please, just apologize, and Do-hyun gently removed her hand. It is all right, he said quietly. I know what I am doing. He looked at Valari and gave a small bow. I accept your challenge, princess. Valari laughed. It was a harsh, sharp sound. You accept? You must be insane. Do you know how many champions I have killed? Do you know that no human has ever survived the arena against a warrior of the Throne Empire? I have read the records, Do-yun said calmly. Then you know you will die. I know what the records say, but records only tell part of the story. Valari leaned close. Her breath was hot and smelled like copper. You will not last 1 minute against me, human. I will break every bone in your fragile little body. I will make you scream for mercy. And when you beg me to stop, I will show you exactly how much your words are worth. Do-hyun met her eyes without flinching. 1 minute, he repeated softly. We shall see. He turned and walked away. The crowd parted for him, but not out of respect. They parted because they were staring at a dead man walking. Only Do-hyun knew the truth. They were not looking at a dead man. They were looking at the most dangerous human who had ever left Earth. And in 2 days, the entire galaxy would learn what that meant. Princess Valari sat in her private chambers and studied the glowing screen in front of her. It showed everything the Galactic database knew about humans. She had been reading for 3 hours. She had never been so disappointed. This is what I am fighting tomorrow? She said to her advisor. This is the great challenge? Tovik, a small creature with gray skin and too many tentacles, wrung his appendages nervously. He had served the royal family for 40 years. He had learned to be very careful with his words. Humans are unusual, Your Highness, he said carefully. Unusual? Valari laughed and pointed at the screen. Look at these numbers. Their bones break under pressure that would not bruise my skin. Their muscles produce barely 1/3 the power of ours. They cannot see in darkness. They cannot smell danger. They have no venom, no claws, no armor. Their reflexes are slow. Their hearts are weak. They live for only 80 standard cycles, and they spend nearly 1/3 of that time unconscious. She shook her head in disgust. How did these creatures even survive on their home planet? Tovik hesitated. The records suggest they are persistent, Your Highness. Persistent. Valari made the word sound like an insult. What does that mean? They do not give up? Giving up would be the smart choice when you are this weak. She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there was a tiny blue planet called Earth. It seemed impossible that such a pathetic species could come from a real world. The human who challenged me, Valari said. Kang Do-yun. What do we know about him? Tovik pulled up another file. Very little, Your Highness. He is listed as an advisor to the human government. Age 43. Born in a region called Korea. He has attended 4 previous summits, but always in the background. Never speaking. Never drawing attention. A shadow, Valari said thoughtfully. Why would a shadow suddenly step into the light? Perhaps he was simply foolish, Your Highness. Humans are known to act without thinking. Perhaps. But something bothered Valari. The human had not seemed foolish. He had seemed calm. Too calm for a man who had just agreed to die. She pushed the thought away. It did not matter. Tomorrow she would crush him in front of the entire galaxy. Humans would learn their place. The Throne Empire would grow stronger. And Valari would add another victory to her legend. Prepare my armor, she commanded. And my lance. I want everything perfect for tomorrow. Tovik bowed and hurried away. But at the door, he paused. Your Highness, there is one more thing. About the humans. Valari turned. What? The Contact Wars. 60 years ago. There are sealed records about a human colony that... I know about the Contact Wars, Valari interrupted. The humans surrendered. They always surrender. That is what we creatures do. Yes, Your Highness. But the sealed records are sealed because they are embarrassing. Probably some human diplomats crying and begging for mercy. Valari waved her hand dismissively. Do not waste my time with ancient history, Tovik. I have a fight to prepare for. Tovik bowed again and left. But his tentacles continued to twist with worry. He had tried to access those sealed records once. He had failed. Whatever had happened during the Contact Wars, someone very powerful wanted it forgotten. He hoped his princess was right about the humans. He feared she was not in another part of the station. Kang Do-yun sat alone in his small quarters. The room was simple and bare. A bed, a desk, a window showing the stars. Nothing else. He did not need anything else. On the desk lay a small device. It looked like a simple communication unit, the kind any delegate might carry. But this device was special. It could intercept and decode most encrypted transmissions on the station. Do-hyun had been listening to Valari's conversation with her advisor. He knew she thought he was weak. He knew she thought she would kill him easily. He knew she had not looked at the sealed records about the Contact Wars. Good. Do-hyun stood and began to stretch. His body was not young anymore. His joints ached in the morning. His back hurt if he sat too long. But beneath the aging exterior, his muscles were still hard as steel cables. His reflexes were still sharp. His mind was still a weapon. 30 years. That was how long he had served in Earth's most secret division. It did not have a name. It did not officially exist. Its members were ghosts who solved problems that could not be solved through normal means. Do-hyun had solved many problems. He had stopped a terrorist attack on a lunar colony by killing 7 men in complete darkness. He had prevented a war between Earth and Mars by making certain evidence disappear along with the people who held it. He had protected 3 different world leaders from assassination attempts. He had done things that would never appear in any record. Now he was here, pretending to be a simple advisor, ready to face a warrior princess who thought humans were weak. He pulled up his own files on his personal device. Not the public information that Valari had seen. The real information. The classified files that only a handful of humans knew existed. The Throne Empire believed in strength. They measured everything by physical power. This was their great blindness. Humans did not survive on Earth because they were strong. Earth was a death world. It had extreme temperatures, deadly predators, poison plants, diseases that killed millions, natural disasters that wiped out entire regions. By all logic, humans should have died out long ago, but they did not die. They adapted. They learned. They endured. When faced with creatures faster than them, humans invented traps. When faced with creatures stronger than them, humans invented weapons. When faced with creatures that could not be killed, humans invented patience. They would track their prey for days, following it without rest until it collapsed from exhaustion. This was what the galaxy did not understand about humans. They were not built for short battles. They were built for long wars. They did not win through power. They won by refusing to lose. Do-Hyun looked at the file on the Contact Wars. 60 years ago, the Throne Empire had attacked a human colony on a small moon. 4,000 humans against a full invasion fleet. The battle should have lasted hours. It lasted 11 months. The humans had no warships, so they hid in tunnels and struck from the shadows. They had no heavy weapons, so they made bombs from mining equipment. They had no army, so every man, woman, and child became a soldier. They fought in the darkness. They fought in the cold. They fought when they were hungry, wounded, and dying, and they never stopped. When the Throne Empire finally won, they had lost 3 times more soldiers than the entire human population of the colony. The survivors were so few and so broken that the Empire sealed all records of the battle. They did not want anyone to know what those weak, fragile humans had cost them. Do-Hyun closed the file. He did not need to read more. He had memorized it years ago. He thought of his daughter, Yuna. She was 21 now, living in a small apartment in Seoul. She worked at a hospital, helping sick children. She was kind and gentle, and everything Diane had fought to protect. Before he left for this mission, she had looked at him with worried eyes. "Appa," she had said, using the Korean word for father. "Please come home safe. Just once, come home without new scars." He had hugged her and made a promise he was not sure he could keep, but he would try. He would try very hard. Do-Hyun returned to his preparations. He studied the arena's layout, memorizing every corner, every shadow, every possible advantage. He reviewed the princess's fighting style, watching old recordings of her previous battles. He practiced his breathing, slowing his heart, calming his mind. The galaxy thought they knew what humans were. They thought humans were weak, soft, fragile creatures who had somehow stumbled into space. Tomorrow, Kang Do-Hyun would teach them the truth. Humans were survivors. They were hunters. They were the children of a death world who had learned to outlast everything that tried to kill them. And the princess, who thought she knew everything, was about to learn the most important lesson of her life. You did not need to be stronger than your enemy to defeat them. You just needed to last longer. The Arena of Honor was the oldest structure on Station Meridia. It had been built 300 years ago, when the first species of the consortium decided they needed a place to settle disputes without starting wars. The rules were simple. 2 fighters entered. They fought until one yielded, fell unconscious, or died. No weapons from outside. No help from others. Only skill, strength, and 10,000 spectators filled the seats around the circular fighting floor. Millions more watched through holographic broadcasts across the galaxy. The fight between a Throne Empire princess and a human advisor had become the most talked about event of the summit. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Most of them expected to see a very short death dot in the waiting area beneath the arena. Kang Do-yoon stood alone. He had removed his black suit jacket. He wore simple gray clothes now, loose and easy to move in. His feet were bare. He carried no weapons. A medical officer from the station approached him nervously. It was her job to examine fighters before each match. "Sir," she said, "I need to conduct a health scan." "Standard procedure." Do-hyun nodded and stood still while she ran her device over his body. The officer's eyes widened as she read the results. "Sir, your body shows signs of significant trauma. Old fractures in 17 bones. Scar tissue on multiple organs. Nerve damage in your left arm. And your heart." She stopped and looked at him. "How are you still alive?" Do-hyun smiled slightly. "I am very stubborn." The officer shook her head. "Sir, I have to advise you that fighting in your condition is extremely dangerous. The princess could kill you with a single blow. I understand. Do you want to withdraw?" "There is no shame in. No." Do-hyun's voice was gentle but firm. "I will fight." The officer looked at him for a long moment. Then she bowed her head and stepped back. "Good luck, sir. You will need it." A horn sounded. The gates to the arena opened. Do-hyun walked out into the light. The crowd roared when they saw him. Most of the sound was laughter. He could hear the alien languages mixing together, all saying the same things. "Look how small he is. Look how weak. This will not even be entertaining. The princes will crush him in seconds." Do-hyun ignored them all. He walked to the center of the arena and stood still. On the other side, another gate opened. Princess Valari entered like a conquering hero. She wore armor made of golden metal that shone under the arena lights. In her upper right hand, she carried a plasma lance, a weapon that could cut through starship hulls. Her scales had shifted to a brilliant crimson, the color her people wore for victory. She raised all four arms to the crowd. They screamed her name. She was their champion. She was undefeated. She was everything they believed a warrior should be. She walked to face Do-hyun and looked down at him with golden eyes full of contempt. "Last chance, human," she said. "Kneel and beg for mercy. Perhaps I will only break half your bones." Do-hyun met her gaze calmly. "I did not come here to kneel." Valari's smile showed all her teeth. "Then you came here to die." The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. "The challenge has been accepted by both parties. Traditional rules apply. The fight ends when one combatant yields, loses consciousness, or dies. Weapons provided by the arena are permitted. Outside assistance is forbidden." A platform rose from the floor, displaying various weapons. Swords, axes, spears, clubs. All designed for different species and fighting styles. Valari laughed. "Take a weapon, human. It will not save you, but at least you can pretend to fight." Do-hyun glanced at the weapons. Then he looked back at the princes. "I do not need them." A murmur ran through the crowd. Was the human insane? Was he so afraid that he had lost his mind? Valari's expression flickered. For just a moment, uncertainty crossed her face. Then it was gone, replaced by anger. "You mock me," she hissed. "You dare to mock me by refusing to arm yourself." "I am not mocking you," Do-hyun said quietly. "I am simply choosing my own path." The horn sounded again. The fight began. Valari attacked immediately. She was fast, incredibly fast. Her plasma lance sliced through the air where Do-hyun's head had been a fraction of a second before. But Do-hyun was not there anymore. He had moved. Not dramatically. Not impressively. He had simply stepped to the side at exactly the right moment, using exactly the right amount of energy. Valari spun and attacked again. Her lance swept in a wide arc that should have cut him in half. Do-yoon ducked. The weapon passed over his head, close enough to singe his hair. Again, she struck. Again he avoided. And again. And again. And again. The crowd grew quiet. Something was wrong. The human should be dead by now. Why was the human not dead? 30 seconds passed. Valari was breathing harder now. Her attacks were still fast and powerful, but the human kept avoiding them. He never counterattacked. He never ran. He just moved, always just enough. Always at the last possible moment. Stand still! Valari roared. Fight me, coward! I am fighting, Do-yoon said calmly. You simply do not recognize it. She lunged at him with all her strength. This time, Do-yoon did not dodge. He stepped into her attack, moving inside the reach of her lance. Before she could react, his hand shot out and grabbed the weapon's shaft. His glove sparked and smoked. The heat of the plasma was intense. But he held on. For one frozen moment, they stood face to face. The princess with all her power and rage. The human with his quiet eyes and iron grip. Your people conquered worlds because you are strong, Do-yoon said softly. Fast, overwhelming. You never learned to fight any other way. You never needed to. He twisted his body. The movement was small, but perfectly timed. Valari felt the lance torn from her grip. She heard a crack as the weapon's shaft broke from the stress. The crowd gasped. My people conquered Earth, Do-yoon continued. He dropped the broken weapon to the ground. We did not conquer it by being strong. We conquered it by being patient. Valari stared at him. No one had ever disarmed her before. No one had ever survived this long against her. What was happening? We learned to outlast everything, Do-yoon said. That is what humans do. We endure. Valari screamed in rage. She did not need a weapon. She had 4 arms, each one strong enough to crush stone. She would tear this human apart with her bare hands. She attacked with all the fury of her warrior heritage. Punches and kicks and grabs from every direction. She was faster than him. She was stronger than him. She would overwhelm him with pure aggression. But every blow missed. Every grab caught empty air. 1 minute passed. The arena was completely silent now. 10,000 spectators watched in disbelief as the princess of the Throne Empire failed to land a single hit on a weaponless human. Do-yoon was not faster than her. He was not stronger than her. But he could read her movements before she made them. 30 years of training and battle had taught him to see the small signals the bodies gave before they moved. A shift in weight. A tension in muscle. A flicker of the eye. He knew what Valari was going to do before. She knew it herself, and she was getting tired. Her species was built for explosive power. Short, devastating attacks. They had never needed endurance. Their fights were always over in seconds. But this fight was not over, and Kang Do-yoon was just getting started. 2 minutes had passed. Then 3. Then 4. Princess Valari had never fought this long in her entire life. Her muscles burned with a fire she had never experienced. Her 4 hearts were pounding so hard she could hear them in her ears. Sweat poured down her scales, and her vision was starting to blur at the edges. The human stood before her, barely breathing hard. This was impossible. This could not be happening. She was the greatest warrior of the Throne Empire. She had killed champions from 9 different worlds. She had led armies to victory. She had never been defeated, but she could not hit this small, fragile, impossible human. She threw another punch. He stepped aside. She kicked. He leaned back. She grabbed for him with all four arms. He slipped away like water through her fingers. "Yield," Do-yoon said quietly. "Never," Valari gasped. But her voice was weak. Her arms felt like they were filled with sand. "Your body is failing," Do-yoon observed. His tone was not cruel or mocking. It was simply honest. "Your species cannot process lactic acid efficiently. You are designed for battles that last seconds, not minutes. If you continue, you will collapse. Then I will collapse fighting." Valari drew on every bit of strength she had left and launched herself at him. Do-yoon caught her wrist. Just one wrist with one hand. But he twisted as he caught her, using her own momentum against her. Valari felt herself spinning, falling. She hit the ground hard. Before she could rise, she felt pressure at the back of her neck. Do-yoon stood behind her, one hand resting lightly on the nerve cluster at the base of her skull. It was the weakest point of her species. A single hard strike there could kill her instantly. The crowd was completely silent. "Page 47 of your own military manual," Do-yoon said softly. "The vulnerability of the cervical nerve cluster. I read it on the shuttle ride here. Your people published it as a warning to doctors about accidental injuries. They never imagined an enemy might read it too." Valari closed her eyes. She felt tears threatening to fall. Not from pain, from shame. "Kill me then," she whispered. "End this." Do-yoon was quiet for a moment. Then he removed his hand from her neck and stepped back. "Stand up," he said. Valari opened her eyes. "What? Stand up?" "This fight is not about killing. It was never about killing." Slowly, painfully, Valari rose to her feet. She turned to face the human. He looked the same as when the fight started. Calm, steady, like he could do this for hours more. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you not finish it?" "Because I came here to teach a lesson, not to execute a princess." The crowd was stirring now. Whispers spread through the arena like fire. What was happening? Why had the human stopped? Was the fight over? Do-yoon spoke loudly enough for the spectators to hear. "The Galactic Consortium believes humans are weak. They look at our bodies and see fragile creatures who should not have survived their own planet. They are right. By every physical measure, we are inferior to most species in this galaxy." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But physical strength is not the only kind of strength. On Earth, humans hunted animals faster than us by following them for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We survived ice ages that killed 90% of all life. We conquered diseases that wiped out millions. We faced extinction again and again, and we refused to die." He turned slowly, addressing the entire arena. "Humans do not win by being stronger. We win by not giving up. We win by adapting. We win by outlasting everything that tries to destroy us. That is what we are. That is what we have always been." He looked back at Valari. "I did not defeat you because I am a better warrior than you, princess. I defeated you because your people never learned how to fight an enemy that will not stop. You have never needed to. Your wars are short and decisive. Ours lasted for years, sometimes for decades, sometimes for centuries." Valari stared at him. She was beginning to understand something terrible. The humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They were simply a different kind of strong. "The contact wars," she said slowly. "The sealed records. What really happened?" Do-yoon's expression did not change. "A human colony of 4,000 people held off your invasion fleet for 11 months. They had no warships, no heavy weapons, no professional soldiers, just farmers and miners and teachers who refused to surrender." A gasp went through the crowd. The contact wars were ancient history, but everyone knew the name. The Throne Empire had always claimed it was a minor conflict, quickly won. When your forces finally won, they had lost 12,000 soldiers, 3 times the entire population of the colony. The survivors were so few that your empire sealed all records and pretended it never happened. Valari felt sick. She thought of all the times she had dismissed humans as pathetic, all the times she had laughed at their weakness. She'd have been laughing at ghosts who had cost her people more blood than most wars. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked quietly. "Because I want you to understand something." Dahyun stepped closer, but not in a threatening way. His eyes were almost kind. "Humanity does not want to be your enemy. We are not here to conquer worlds or build empires. We are here because we survived long enough to reach the stars, and now we want to find our place among them." He extended his hand toward her, a human gesture of peace. Dead enemies stay enemies forever. Living enemies can become friends. I would rather have the throne empire as a friend than as a corpse. Valari looked at his hand. It was small compared to hers, fragile looking, but she had seen what that hand could do. She had felt its strength. She thought about her pride. She thought about her reputation. She thought about what the galaxy would say when they learned she had been defeated by a human. Then she thought about what the human had said, about persistence, about survival, about the colony that had held off an invasion fleet for nearly a year. Maybe there were different kinds of strength. Maybe she had been wrong about humans. Slowly, she reached out and took Dahyun's hand. "I yield," she said loudly, so everyone could hear. "The human has won." The arena exploded with noise. Shock, disbelief, anger, confusion. Some spectators were shouting that the fight was unfair. Others were demanding answers. About the contact wars, the whole station seemed to shake with the reaction, but Valari did not care about any of them. She looked at the small human who had just changed everything. She believed about the galaxy. "You could have killed me," she said quietly. Under the noise of the crowd, double quotes, "Yes, but you chose mercy." "I chose wisdom," Dahyun corrected. "Killing you would have started a war. Defeating you starts a conversation." Valari thought about that. It was strange logic, cold and calculating, but also hopeful. "You are a dangerous man, Kang Do-hyun," she said. "Yes," he agreed simply, "but I am trying to be dangerous in the right direction." For the first time in her life, Princess Valari laughed without cruelty. It was a strange feeling. "Perhaps," she said, "humans are not as simple as I thought." Do-hyun smiled slightly. "We never have been. The galaxy simply was not paying attention." He released her hand and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for the fight, Princess. It was educational." He turned and walked away, leaving Valari standing alone in the center of the arena. The crowd was still roaring, but she did not hear them. She was thinking about sealed records, about 11 months, about 4,000 farmers and miners who had fought an empire to a standstill, and she was thinking about what humanity might become if the galaxy kept underestimating them. It was not a comfortable thought, but it was a necessary one. The morning after the fight, Station Meridia was in chaos. Every news network in the galaxy was broadcasting the same story. A human had defeated Princess Valari of the Throne Empire in single combat. He had done it without weapons. He had done it without taking a single hit. He had done it by simply refusing to be where her attacks wanted him to be. The video had been watched over 8 billion times in the first 12 hours. But that was only the first 12 hours. But that was only the first 12 hours. But that was only the first must have been sounded beginning. The real explosion came when the sealed records about the contact wars were finally opened. The Throne Empire had tried to keep them hidden, but too many questions were being asked. Too many people were demanding answers. In the end, they had no choice but to release the truth. The truth was worse than anyone imagined. The human colony on the moon called New Hope had indeed been attacked by a Throne Empire fleet. The invasion force numbered 15,000 soldiers, supported by orbital weapons and advanced technology. The colony had no military. Their weapons were mining tools and farming equipment. The first battle lasted 3 days. The Empire lost 500 soldiers. The humans retreated underground. For the next 11 months, the colony fought a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They turned their mines into fortresses. They built bombs from fertilizer and fuel. They dug tunnels that collapsed on enemy troops. They poisoned water supplies. They attacked in darkness and vanished before dawn. When reinforcements came from the Throne Empire, the humans destroyed them too. When supplies ran low, the humans ate whatever they could find and kept fighting. When their weapons broke, they made new ones from enemy corpses. In the end, the Empire won. They killed every last human on New Hope, but the cost was staggering. 12,000 soldiers dead, 3 battleships destroyed, 7 generals killed in ambushes. The most expensive victory in Throne Empire history. And the humans had never surrendered. Not once. Not even at the end. The final transmission from the colony's leader was played on every news network. Her name was Ha-Myray. She was 32 years old when she died. Her voice was calm and steady, even as enemy soldiers broke down her door. This is New Hope Colony to anyone who can hear. We have fought for 341 days. We have lost everything. Our homes, our families, our future. But we have not lost our humanity. We die free. Remember us. The transmission ended with the sound of weapons fire. The galaxy had never heard anything like it. In the diplomatic halls of Meridia, everything was changing. Species that had dismissed humans as irrelevant were suddenly paying attention. Species that had bullied human traders were suddenly apologizing. The trade agreement that Do-hyun had come to protect was signed within hours, with better terms than humanity had ever received. But Do-hyun did not celebrate. He stood in the observation deck, watching the stars, thinking about Ha-Myray and the 4,000 people who had died so that humanity could be taken seriously. He hoped they would have approved of how he used their legacy. You are thinking about them, a voice said behind him. The colonists. Do-hyun turned. Princess Valari stood in the doorway. She had removed her armor. Without it, she looked smaller. Still tall, still powerful, but somehow more real. Yes, he admitted. Valari walked to stand beside him at the window. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. I watched the final transmission, she said finally. The woman, Ha-Myray, she was not afraid. No, she was not. How? Valari turned to look at him. Her golden eyes were troubled. How can someone face death like that? Without fear? Without begging? Do-hyun thought about the question. It deserved an honest answer. On Earth, we have a concept called courage, he said slowly. It does not mean the absence of fear. It means acting according to your values even when you are afraid. Ha-Myray was afraid. She must have been. But she chose to die as she had lived, free, unbroken, human. Valari was silent for a moment. My people believe that courage is about strength, about power, about crushing your enemies before they can crush you. She shook her head slowly. We never understood that there might be another kind. Your people conquered worlds, Do-hyun said gently. You never needed to develop that kind of courage. But perhaps now you can learn. Valari looked at him strangely. You are strange, human. I tried to kill you yesterday. Now you offer to teach me? Yesterday, you were my opponent. Today you are someone who might become an ally. Do-hyun shrugged. Humans are practical. We do not waste time on grudges when there are better uses for our energy. A small smile crossed Valari's face. You are practical. And patient. And dangerous. And you hide all of it behind a mask of weakness. Not a mask, Do-hyun corrected. I am weak by your standards. Every human is. We simply learn to make our weakness into a different kind of strength. Valari nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand. Humans were not pretending to be something they were not. They had simply found ways to survive despite what they were. That was perhaps more impressive than being born powerful. What will you do now? She asked. Go home. Report to my government. Spend time with my daughter. Do-hyun smiled slightly. She worries about me. You have a daughter? Yes, her name is Yuna. She works at a hospital, helping sick children. She is kind and gentle and nothing like me. Valari heard something in his voice. A warmth that had not been there before. You fight so that she does not have to, she said. It was not a question. Yes, that is why all humans fight. Not for glory or conquest. We fight so that our children can have a better future than we did. He looked at the stars. Earth is a hard place. We have always known that life is fragile and death is close. So we fight for every moment. We treasure every generation. We refuse to let anything destroy what we love. Valari was quiet for a long time. Then she made a decision. I want to visit Earth, she said. I want to understand humans better. Not from files or records. From seeing them live. Do-hyun raised an eyebrow. That could be arranged. Though I warn you, Earth is not comfortable for species from friendlier worlds. The gravity is heavy. The weather is unpredictable. The wildlife is often dangerous. Then it will be good training. Valari smiled, showing her teeth. But this time, the smile was not threatening. It was almost friendly. Perhaps I will learn some of your human patience. Do-hyun returned the smile. Perhaps you will. He extended his hand again. Valari took it without hesitation. Friends then? She asked. Friends, he agreed. They stood together at the window, watching the stars. Two warriors from different worlds, finding common ground in the spaces between them. Later that day, Do-hyun sent a message to Earth. It was short and simple, coming home. No new scars this time. Made a friend. In her small apartment in Seoul, Yuna read the message and smiled. Her father always kept his promises, even the impossible ones. Across the galaxy, the story of Kang Do-hyun and Princess Valari spread like wildfire. It became a legend, a symbol, a warning. The galaxy was beginning to learn what humans had always known. The most dangerous creature in the universe was not the strongest or the fastest. It was not the one with the sharpest claws or the deadliest. Venom. It was the one that simply refused to stop, and humanity had never stopped. Not on Earth, not on New Hope, not anywhere. They never would. That was what it meant to be human. And the galaxy would do well to remember it.